wallets, platforms, what the fuck. It's sort of an inside joke. You'll see later if you follow the links in the lower right on your phone or whatever. These questions here are not actually what I'm going to cover in this talk, because lately I've been working on like vision statements and forming a couple new organizational things. So like I'm in a little more directional mode and a little less operational mode. But these questions are the takeaway menu. So I'll bring them back on the last slide after running you through the set lunch options, which are here on the right, and on the left, that's the QR code if you want to follow the links. Each of my slides has like 3 or 4 links in the corner. If you can read that bit.ly from where you are, or if your phone can scan that QR code, you could do it in real time, or I don't know, in the convenience of your own home someday. So yeah, I'm gonna overview a little bit some framing concepts about the browser wars and Web 3.2.1, and talk a little bit about money and markets and stuff. And then I'm going to go over some sort of current events that you may not know about if you're not really plugged into like the Ethereum world, where wallets are changing. And the subtext of this whole talk is the compliance, US and European compliance world, which if you pay more attention to Singapore or don't pay attention, you might also have missed. And step 4, I'm not doing. Like I said, I'm not operational at the moment. It's sort of a left as an exercise for the reader, as they say. And so, yeah, a little bit about myself, 1-minute version of the talk. I'd say that I got into this Web3 stuff because I saw Apple Pay and Google Pay on the horizon. I saw the history of the browser, the history of the World Wide Web Consortium and Internet Engineering Task Force heading in a pretty obvious singular direction. And having worked with other kinds of agentic software, other kinds of attempts to restructure the money behind software, I thought maybe crypto has a fighting chance where a lot of other kinds of agentic software have less of one, at making something totally orthogonal, total sideshow to what's happening to the captured internet. I'm nominally representing the Chain Agnostic Standards Alliance, which is a community venue, not an employer, not a company, not a nonprofit, really a venue for community work. Very non-commercial. We accept donations. You can write us into your drips.json if work you're doing benefits from things we've standardized. But yeah, our what we're working on right now this year primarily are the capes and the cans, which are specs for cross-chain work and community self-documentation. That'll make a little more sense as the talk proceeds, why Casa would care about wallet UX. And the vision, like I said, user agency more than sovereignty, building a Web3 beyond L1s punching each other in the face and browser wars, thinking in terms of real meta platforms instead of just dumber, smaller games. One really helpful thing to state up front, I use the word wallet a lot. I'm not talking about wallet as an on-chain construct. I'm not talking about what the EVM or the asset chain coordination chains think of as a wallet. I'm thinking about a wallet as a wallet client in Ryan Bett's taxonomy, linked in the corner there. I think we need to think about the wallet as the piece of software normal people have to trust with their life savings if this is going anywhere realistic or anywhere mainstream. If you need to be, a deep insider, if you're selling picks and shovels all day and everyone uses these wallets, like think about who else could or couldn't use the wallets you consider usable when you're talking about UX. And yeah, so getting into the Web 1.2.3 thing, I won't bore you. I know this is sort of a wonky old man topic, but because I am 100 years old and because I worked in Web 1. I wanna put forward the idea that contrary to the sort of rah-rah version of this sequence, Webs 1, 2, and 3 aren't discrete stages. They're not like A happened, then B happened, then C happened. All three of them are cycles with a beginning, middle, and end. And a lot of people think Web 1 was, in America, the cliche is like everyone got an AOL CD in the mail, and then everyone got online, and then that was Web 1. But I see things a little more like the way a regulator might, or a historian, economic historian might. For me, the web began when the web platform was uniform, when it was one platform instead of competing platforms. So when websites were telling you, come back with a different browser, I don't speak AOL, I don't speak Netscape, that wasn't the web. That wasn't Web 1.0, that was Web 0.5. Like, that was the barbaric early warring states period before anything that can be called an empire. And I think to some degree that's a little where we are in Web 3. That's my provocative take. Like, we're not actually at the web yet. Web 3 isn't web yet, because we still have this come back with another wallet everywhere. We haven't really standardized what a wallet does, and the bare minimum table stakes things all wallets need to do, they don't all reliably do. So until wallets are as interchangeable as browsers, that's my contrarian take. So I don't want to be too negative. There's plenty of great work going in this direction. I want to shout out to Sam Wilson and the Ethereum Foundation for giving Sam Wilson a grant to make something called the Wallet Test Framework, WTF. The Wallet Test Framework was modeled on what W3C made after 10 years of this bullshit on the left, so the browsers would actually be interchangeable. So someone could make a website once and not have to remake it so that more browsers can show it to you. That unification of the web platform was Web 1. And famously, the reason no one could make a hugely profitable trillion-dollar business on the back of it is that payments had to be bolted on, right? So the Web 2 cycle, which I would say we're still 100% in, and when I said at the beginning of the talk, I saw the direction the web was headed, I still think we're heading in this direction, and Web 3 is a sideshow for now. Web 2 really was about competing models for what you could bolt on to capture value. And I think most people who read the Financial Times would agree that those three logos in the middle probably won, and they're comparable to those other logos in terms of how much value they're skimming off the top of the world economy now that globalization has been moved online. So yeah, there's some links there. Decentralized Identity Foundation is a link to follow there if you don't know about that whole set of prior art, thinking about wallets and software that users can trust with their valuable information so as not to give it to the usual suspects who get in between everyone and their customers. Web 2's real innovation wasn't technological. Like if you really dig into OIDC tooling, you'll see it's not rocket science. Those arrows on the right are the actual innovation. Those are what make trillion-dollar empires that regulators have been scrambling for 10 years to rein in. Those legal arrangements, those contracts, like the real innovation is on the legal side, not the technological side, We celebrate engineers a lot in Web3, but the lawyers are, that's who's working the hardest right now, is to come up with new forms of shell gamery that could maybe decentralize these flows. And this is how I would diagram Web3 today. The bottom three boxes get most of the attention and most of the standards and most of the funding. It's a lot easier to start a business the lower you are in this stack. Lately, there's been a lot more, like the last year maybe, that middle box gets a little more funding than before, but still basically at the node level. The websites and dApps and things that make smart contracts interactable, and the wallets that make dApps interactable, that's still squatting in Web 2. And that has all of the security vulnerabilities of Web 2 and all the security vulnerabilities of Web 3 ineluctably everywhere, right? So the wallet's a really hard game to be in because you have to really follow W3C and IETF. You have to really follow the security, cybersec industry closely for the Web2 stuff. And you also have to follow all kinds of shenanigans on the Web3 side because, like, just because it's a token doesn't mean you know what it is worth or how it works. There's a whole lot of black boxes on chain too, increasingly Baroque ones. So bolting on users to these innovative payment rails is kind of where we're at right now. My argument is that until dApps and wallets in particular are more standardized, more conformant, until they have conformance suites they can conform to, we don't really have a Web3. We have a web-like thing. We have a weird new payment rail hanging around near the exits of Web2. And the wallet layers where I spend the most of my time, I've worked for wallet companies. I think a lot about UX, sort of a product guy by temperament. And getting a business plan together, getting investment into a wallet is pretty hard. Right now, most money going into wallets is as a loss leader for someone at a lower layer of this stack, or some sort of mutual back scratching or what have you. I could go into this, but I think the slide speaks for itself in terms of the business school challenges to getting money for better wallets. Instead, what is getting tons of funding, like at EthCC, there were parties being thrown for competing solver DSLs and intense languages, which is an extremely wonky engineering way of saying the way that all the different semi-antagonistic on-chain entities on different chains can understand each other about these composite transactions they're building for someone to blind sign. That's where we're at right now. And I think this is an interesting version of the traditional layering diagram. It's actually modeled on an early Ethereum Foundation diagram. The yellow layer and the blue layer kind of split with these two, and they're growing more distinct on all other L1s. It's sort of the direction we're going with composable everything and DeFi everything. The permissioning layer there is not permissioning in the legal sense. It's not permissioning in the UX sense. It isn't about getting meaningful consent from users. It's about encoding between the many abstractions what ground truth they're encoding into a complex transaction the end user won't understand. And that permissioning there is just what users look like from the chain's point of view, right? Like this is a really interesting diagram for like how wallets look if you are a blockchain or some sort of MEV maximizing arbitrage playing AI or something. A lot of people have been talking about account abstraction. Chain abstraction is a really interesting model coming out of the DeFi headspace. And I think it's really interesting, but it really shows how much more money there is for the one user story of day traders, flash bots, and extremely skilled, educated degenerates at the expense of all other user stories. Like the only people who are happy with wallets are people who are, gambling with your grandma's pension. And one sort of form this takes, one really interesting form, I think, intellectually and in terms of engineering, is zero knowledge and pulling things off chain, out of regulatory oversight in some cases, into even rollups, individual rollups for each actor. And again, like I just want to emphasize, this isn't 5 billion personal rollups. This isn't a rollup for every human. It's a rollup for every day trader moving millions. This is not a middle class technology. This is not a consumer technology. This is one user story that has been massively overdeveloped, like someone went to the gym and only used one arm and has like one huge arm and the other one looks like mine. So thinking about this more operationally, like just I promised some current events, some updates if you've not been following where Ethereum wallets are going. Coinbase is really a vertically consolidated business. They are very much the closest we have to AOL, the closest we have to Steve Case era AOL, sending everyone CDs in the mail. They need to be a trustworthy business at every layer, and they've been killing it in the crates on every other layer, and they've run out of other things to do, and now the weakest link is the wallet. So they're really pumping resources and brilliant people into wallets because 10 years have passed and we're still at 2005 wallets. So Coinbase is like, okay, we've done UX, we've done user research, we know what the users need, we know what the dApps need, and it's all these features we can't do, and that if we did it in our wallet, no one else could bring their wallet to the same dApp. And like, this is a really interesting forcing function. If Coinbase's bottom line is being held back by how bad everyone else's wallets are and how non-interchangeable everyone else's wallets are, they're gonna have to make a wallet standard and get people to use it. Currently, the Coinbase Smart Wallet's the only wallet that uses their standard, but it's a pretty public thing. There's a lot of eyes on that standard, and that standard is sort of raising the bar for wallets. And I think this is something to track, regardless of your attitude towards Coinbase as a company or as a player in the space or as a whatever. Another direction that I think is really interesting, Wallet Connect has been leaning into their platform role as a matchmaker between dApps and wallets. So one way to explain what Wallet Connect does if you don't know, or if you never really understood, which is something I hear a lot even at ETH hackathons, is that Wallet Connect is one SDK that a dApp can integrate that makes over 100 wallets workable for that dApp, right? Otherwise, you're either doing the Coinbase wallet or you're doing one wallet at a time, and that doesn't really scale, right? I think Wallet Connect realized early on that the wallet was underspecified, understandardized, never gonna be interchangeable. So they tried to make wallets more interchangeable and helped both sides of this platform, this matchmaking platform. So now they've been adding features to the wallet SDK, which makes it easy for a wallet that has great features to sort of level up or make sure, test that they're doing all the interfaces the standard way. They're sort of bringing on conformance testing at the wallet interface, which is really, like I said, with Can I Use, with the wallet testing framework, that's what we needed all along to be a web in the first place. So Wallet Connect is raising the bar in a different way, in a more cooperative way, right? I put the little fish diagram because like I think I always tell smaller wallets, like, read the Wallet Connect documentation extremely carefully, even if you're not using it, because this is the baseline to target. Like this is, version 0.9 of the web standard. And MetaMask, the other documentation most people study closely when they're making a wallet, because it sort of encapsulates the user expectations, the sort of effective standard, has also been really terraforming its whole position in the space. They've always been some really innovative, thoughtful, responsible designers, and I think they don't get enough credit. I think a lot of people blame them for being the most obvious target of every kind of attacker. But they're doing two very interesting things right now. One, they're opening the Snaps program to be a platform for other wallets to make a sort of lightweight a driver for MetaMask so that other L1s, non-blockchain systems can write an extension to MetaMask and be a sort of app store. Gnosis is doing this as well in terms of becoming app store. And I think that's worth watching no matter what blockchain interface, whatever L1s you're working with or whatever context you're in. Because like really, these are people trying to think outside of the Apple and Google app stores, the browser locked down by one browser, captured standards, and the economics and regulatory antitrust reality we all know. The other really interesting thing that MetaMask is doing that I want to mention, at Istanbul, Casa put on some Casa members, and Boris from Fission put on a really great day-long unconference on wallets called the Wallet Unconference. Dan Finley gave a fascinating talk there. The link is there to the YouTube or stream.eth recording. And he really had a sort of rebuttal to this idea of roll up everything, app chain everything, onboarding a billion more people to these thousands of chains that they couldn't possibly track. Dan's point is that we're abstracting the wrong thing. We're abstracting from the chain up instead of from the user down. And Dan has a super strong argument that a user doesn't know what an app chain is, and even we can't keep this crap straight who work on app chains, and that a user thinks in terms of assets. They go online because a wallet is a thing that they use to own things. So a dApp says, hey, do you have mana? The wallet needs to abstract that for the user because the user's not gonna remember like, oh, someone sent me some mana on Arbitrum and I had to swap it to the bing, 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 bang. Like that's not, next billion users aren't doing any of that. That's totally delusional. And MetaMask has pointed out this sort of classic human-computer interaction paradigm of the file picker, which comes back to the fundamental problem I opened with. This has to be software that normal people trust with their assets. Like no one's trusting their 401k to a single-page app on a website they don't know that doesn't have the little lock icon next to it. A file picker is an interesting sort of neutral third place. It's outside the browser. The operating system handles it. So when you click on an upload file button on a website, you don't have to trust the website that much because you see your familiar operating system file picker. When you hit the share button on your mobile phone, or even on browsers now, thanks to Can I Use, you can look up which browsers. When you want to share something, a link goes to your mobile operating system and you see all of your apps that you've used recently and you trust the operating system to route that to apps. Think about that on a trust level. Like what sort of neutral third spaces do we have like that in Web3? Right? So anyways, great talk by Dan Finley there. Pay attention to snaps if you're not paying attention to snaps. I think it's really easy to get lost in sort of op-ed pieces and hot takes, but like really track the facts of snaps. It's interesting stuff. And yeah, that was what I promised. I don't know if we have time for questions, but if we do, someone might have to pass around a mic. I'm deaf. Are there questions? Did I go too fast for questions? Hello, sir. Shout at my face, and then maybe the mic will pick it up. Hey, man, how are you?
Yeah, good.
Hey.
Hey, what was so you had a reference to Dan's protocol essay when you were talking about MetaMask. I was just curious, what was that essay, and where can we get the link for it?
Oh, dang it! That wasn't on the slide. Did I mess that up? Oh, sorry. I thought the mic was getting it. Yeah, it's about Dan's protocol essay, which is linked there if you go to the bit.ly. The protocol essay is neither about the file picker nor about the snaps program. It's a little more meta, but it's maybe a more philosophical take on like how do we decide what to decide, or like what protocol do we use to find out if we trust all the other protocols enough to use them? No, it's on danfinlay.com or whatever. The link is in the thing, man. Here, just get the link off the thing. The link is on that thing, you goof. Okay. Were there other questions? Oh, everyone's phone's out. Okay. Oh, sorry, I'm blind and deaf.
So you previously said.
Thank you,
sir. This is Zoltan from Cointelegraph. So you previously said that we need dApps and especially wallets to be more conformant and standardized for Web3 adoption, I believe. I'd love for you to expand on that. And then one more question related to, I guess, seed phrases. Do you really see mainstream adoption until we're stuck with seed phrases, or do we simply need a recoverable password username for mainstream? Thank you.
Damn, two excellent questions. I'll answer them in the order you asked them. I think that wallets and dApps have standards. They have, in Ethereum in particular, I can use that case because I'm the most familiar with it. Each IP process is totally different, culturally, formally, whatever. But in the EIP process, EIPs about the protocol get coordinated by all core devs, and the mechanics of forking and consensus means everyone has to agree when and how they're all implementing together. So they they sort of do this speed run where all the clients implement something together, all have a chance to test it, last minute changes coordinated furiously, and then things get scheduled to fork, and they all get coordinated. At the wallet level and the smart contract level, there's no forcing function. So people just ship EIPs like, yo, this is what we're doing. If you want to do the same thing, cool. Very, very few EIPs at the dApp or smart contract level come with test cases, test vectors, conformance pseudocode, any sort of way to know you're implementing it right. You find out when customers are complaining that you misimplemented a vague spec. No forming function, no caniuse.com. I linked on the slide about this EIP 6963, which was largely a Casa joint, which was, Wallet Connect donated a lot of hours, engineering hours, to like, here's a test app, here's tests. Like, if your wallet, if your nightly or whatever isn't connecting to this test app, you didn't do 6963 right. This is what the error codes mean. Like, this is which requirement you implemented wrong if you're getting each error. So that's what I mean about standards, right? Like, we have standards, we don't have working groups. We have standards, but we don't have forcing functions or conformance suites. We don't have caniuse.com for anything at the wallet level. So wallets, modulo what Sam Wilson has built. And in terms, and in particular, I think, to Dan Finlay's point, going down from the user instead of up from what the chain wants and what the DeFi protocol wants, we need standards for like user expectation. We not to be crass, but we seriously fucking need yesterday meaningful consent standards, because like that's how the laws are written, that we will get sued by regulators for implementing badly. So like, if you look in the history of the browser, internationalization, accessibility to people with disabilities, which Web3 wallet do you recommend to a blind person at the moment? I don't know. So in terms of seed phrases and passkey, everyone wants to use passkey. No one wants to write down how they're using it because they're all competing with each other. They all want the better passkey implementation, so nothing's going to be interoperable and nothing's going to be secure. Good example, like if we want to move away from seed phrases, like can we cooperate on passkeys in the open instead of like all shipping incompatible things and then make V2 compatible 5 years from now when Google Wallet already has crypto in it and we're all dead? That's my thinking on seed phrases. I think everyone agrees that seed phrases are not going to work for the other 95% of the world, but the solution to that is unfortunately boring, ugly standards, governance, all the stuff people got into Web3 not to think about. Other questions? Do I have time? Am I eating into someone else's time? What is time? Okay. Rafael. Really shout this time.
If you can implement one standard across, like one specific actionable standard based on the work that you've done so far, is there a specific one that you think has the most leverage that we need to address?
Boom. Yeah, if I could pick one, I'd probably pick one no one in this room has heard of. I'm a huge fan of the UCAN spec, because when the many years I was primarily working on decentralized identity stuff, trying to tackle the technical underpinnings of this shit show, what we ultimately came up with is that all the tooling and all the clouds and everything are optimized for OAuth, and OAuth assumes a structure that works really well for these payment base point distribution Ponzi's that you see here. And thinking outside of OAuth is impossible. People who are coders, who've been coding OAuth their whole life, don't know there is a web without OAuth. Like it's pretty esoteric at this point. So to move away from OAuth and to use authorization that is way more distributed network friendly, on-chain friendly, multi-chain friendly, you need a swap-in replacement for OAuth, which is UCANs. I actually don't have any links to UCANs on here, but there's a blog post forthcoming on the Casa website about it. That's my promotional, everyone should use UCANs so that you can, segment your value flows. This thing tells me I'm out of time, I think. So thanks.